My name is Cass and welcome to this ink dev look at the L-3 Nozzlenose. The Nozzlenose is of course a shooter type weapon. It costs 5,800 gold and has a high range, a high fire rate and medium damage. Its sub weapon is the Disruptor and its special weapon is the Killer Whale. If you take a look at its shooting trail, something really interesting pops up. Unlike all the other shooter type weapons, it shoots 3 ink bullets in quick succession and has then a short delay before it can fire again. You also cannot hold down the set air button to keep shooting. So basically it is a semi-automatic weapon. As you can see, its shooting trail is pretty long with about 4.5 meters. But its ink coverage is pretty spotty. Its shooting trail is also incredibly narrow. It does 29 damage per hit, which means that with 3 ink plops you do about 87 damage per burst. So you will have to shoot a second time to kill an enemy. Interestingly enough, it can really be compared with other high fire rate, high mobility shooters, for example the Nzap. Its range and accuracy is far closer to weapons which slow you down heavily, for example the Splattershot Pro. But before I talk about this really unique aspect of this weapon, first let's look at its TTK or time to kill. Its TTK lies between 400 and 500 milliseconds. Of course this time can heavily fluctuate, it all really depends on your timing with the set air button and the delay of the weapon. Compared to the Nzap and the Splattershot Pro, it is of course slower. Both of them only take about 300 milliseconds to kill a target. At a 2 meter range, the Nozzlenose takes about 500 to 600 milliseconds. This is sadly again slower than the Splattershot Pro and the Nzap, which both take around 400 to 500 milliseconds to kill a target at 2 meter range. Looking at its TTK and the comparisons that I made with the Nzap and the Splattershot Pro, it might seem like that the Nozzlenose isn't really that good of a weapon, but that is far from the truth. The Nozzlenose is an incredible weapon which has some really unique attributes and does a ton of things differently. One burst with its 3 ink plops does 87 damage. And because those shots come out so quickly, most of the time you will be able to hit an enemy with all 3 ink plops. Another unique thing about this weapon is its mobility. Even so, it has an incredible range and is one of the most accurate weapons of the game. Your movement while shooting isn't as heavily restricted as if you were using a Splattershot Pro. You are even faster than the weapons which only really slow you down a little bit while shooting, for example the Aerospray or the Splattershot Junior, because you are able to move at a normal walking speed between your bursts. As always, of course, last but not least, let's talk about its role in combat. The L-3 Nozzlenose is a bit of a hybrid, but of course it favors long-range combat. It is incredibly useful for holding choke points. It is able to outrange most shooter-type weapons, and so it is able to prevent an enemy from getting into a specific area. Its sub and special weapon are able to help with that too. The Disruptor is an incredibly powerful tool which is able to hit most enemies in small areas and slow them down for you to pick off. The enemy will probably also retreat when they are slowed down. The Killer Whale of course is incredibly for holding choke points. So when you do your job right, enemies won't really be able to get past you. I also mentioned that it is a bit of a hybrid weapon. That is because of its sub-weapon, the Disruptor. Using the Disruptor cleverly, you will be able to pick off enemies also in close quarters. Because even though its TTK is slower than a lot of weapons, the Disruptor will restrict and confuse your enemies so much that you will be able to splat them easily. You should mostly focus on splatting enemies because its ink coverage isn't really the best. It should be also noted that this weapon is incredibly accurate, which means that you should be on point with your aim. Even more so than with other shooter type weapons because of its delay between bursts. In conclusion, the L-3 Nozzlenose is an incredibly unique weapon. It has incredible range, is one of the most accurate weapons in the game, and because of its unique shooting mechanic, you will be able to walk faster than most of your enemies. If you aim well, don't forget your disruptors and call choke points your home, you will have an incredible time with this weapon. I hope that you liked this ink dev look at the L-3 Nozzlenose. My name is Cass, and I hopefully see you next time.